And we're back. Welcome back to another episode of
Two Morons with Some Gear.
Two Morons, One Pedal.
Fair.
Anyway, so we're still working on our title.
Yeah.
We've got Joey and Derek's Gear Rochambeau, which is still my favorite. Show and Tell with Joey and Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Two Morons, One Pedal. I don't want other people to. I don't really want people to be thinking about where the origins of that is from every time they think of our pedal show, though.
Correct. It's a good idea.
This pedal show.
Yes. Oh, maybe we should go with this pedal show.
Sorry, guys.
Because you should watch this one.
Yeah.
Not that one, but also watch that one.
Yeah, watch that one. That one's honestly better than this one.
by a long shot.
Did I say honestly? I meant obviously.
Yes.
No, but so you and I, we've been swapping gear for years.
Yeah.
We've been friends for a long, long time. And the irony is, I know that Dan and Mick from that pedal show, the whole sort of like origin story of that is kind of our same origin story. Every time we'd get together to talk about something, we would wind up just gabbing about gear. So it's kind of a similar thing. We're not trying to align ourselves with that pedal show. We're just trying to talk about pedals.
But if they would want to send me a T-shirt in size double XL, if it's American size, I would wear it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, I probably, I know a couple guys out there. Right? I would probably set it up.
Also, if they want to send more like gig rig stuff, I mean, I have the G3 that I haven't actually put on my board, but any of that stuff. No pressure though. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. No.
That's the real intention of this show, is just to get more pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what we both need.
God.
We do.
I'm currently trying to sell pedals.
I'm done. What are you selling?
Everything.
Okay, great. We'll have a chat after this. Well, I'm already buying that 1%er from you, so yes.
All right.
But yes.
Your people, call my people, we'll do lunch.
Sounds good.
Okay, so today I know that you don't get along with fuzzes.
Nope, I hate them.
You hate them, and so I brought something that I think is a really cool, almost transitionary device.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of Kingsley pedals, which are built out of Vancouver, so they're Canadian as well.
Awesome.
Simon, the fella from Kingsley, he's actually from the UK, but he lives in actually Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and he's been making amps and tube or valve driven pedals for a very long time, and I think he makes the greatest stuff. I actually brought two of his pedals. I don't know if we'll get to the other one today, but we're for sure going to talk about this one. This is kind of his take on a tube-driven fuzz pedal.
Okay.
It has a lot of controls. It does a lot of things, but it is kind of one of those things that you just turn knobs until it sounds cool. The one thing that I think is really, really unique about this is the tone section. So anybody who's a big fuzz person, especially vintage fuzzes, something that's really important is the way they clean up when you roll your volume back. And that's like the super shimmery clean that Hendrix got was when he was playing a fuzz face and rolled his volume on his guitar back, and it just cleans up to this like super bright, gorgeous, in his case, strat tone. But one of the things that actually affects how, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't understand the science behind this as much as some folks might. So, if I got it wrong, keep it to yourself. I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. Feel free to let us know in some way. You can send us a letter. I'll give you Derek's address after this. But a big thing that affects how your volume pot can clean up is based on, not exclusively, but it contributes to, is the size of the tone cap.
Okay.
So what Simon has done is effectively, and like myself being a fuzz user, I'm always adjusting the controls on the guitar, the volume or the tone. So the thing is you crank your tone knob wide open so it's not cutting any frequencies at all, and then you set it here. So he's got, I think it's, how many positions is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8. I don't know.
Yep.
8 different tone positions, and then you adjust. So this basically replaces the tone control on your guitar.
Okay.
So that's really, really cool. And it also doubles as kind of gives you a bit of a tone shift, almost like a baritone in that everybody hated, but it's kind of cool. So I'll start us on the low end. You've got input impedance, so you can adjust the input of your guitar, the bias of the tube inside, and then gain and volume are fairly straight ahead. So I'll just give you like, this is kind of... So that's kind of like a dry, like a...
So what is the bias control doing right now?
So as it's turned down, my understanding is you're starving voltage to the tube, so you're lowering its headroom.
Okay.
So when it's all the way up, it's going to be the least dirty.
Right. Yep.
I think that's what's happening with it. Again, if Simon Jarrett ever watches this video, he can comment. But
is there a tube in here, or is it solid state? Okay.
Nope, there's a tube in there. So
yeah, nice.
So as you kind of adjust, you know, you can kind of, it's subtle, but you can hear how it changes the quality of the cleanup.
Yeah, that's crazy considering like
how dirty it is.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the magic of what a fuzz pedal can do. I kind of like things to be fairly extreme when it comes to fuzzes.
Yeah.
So like, I want it to have as much... And then the more switch, I think it just adds a bit of a boost. So to hit everything harder. I don't find myself really needing it because it does quite a bit. But if you ever find yourself wanting more. So that's kind of like, I think this pedal is super great and versatile. Do you want to try it?
I do. Because I'll show you, so my dilemma with fuzz pedals, and when I say that I hate them, the reason I say that I hate them is because I don't understand how to play them, because the way that I typically play everything is I go for as much clarity as possible in drives. Yes, and Joey is trying very hard to get a Bubbly endorsement for the fine people over at Bubbly, if they watch.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna steal your cable.
Steal it.
So, like, I always find myself gravitating towards like very, very specific like styles of riffs that I would play.
Yeah.
Like if I'm using a fuzz pedal, it's always in that like like if Jack White would play like some single note riff, that's always what I'm gonna go towards, is something like that.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that almost everything you're playing was more like leads or like chorded stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's the opposite of what I've always gone for with overdrives. Like, I think my board is on. Like I would go for that kind of sound.
Yeah.
Or like where it's like really tight and clean, right?
Yeah.
So,
and a fuzz is not gonna do that, you know.
no, but I do like that.
So here's a bit of Fuzz 101.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely depends on your setup and the type of circuit, but something like this, you would almost always want to be on your bridge pickup
Right. Okay.
for a particular thing. Like if you want a really creamy kind of, then the neck pickup is the way to go. And then controls wide open. And then sticking to like chord voicings that are fairly simple, like just have roots and fifths, because there's so much going on harmonically. As you add other notes that have more harmonic overtones, that's when you really lose the clarity. So like power chords or like, fifths high up. Yeah, you can really start to hear it like blooming. And then the other thing is how you attack the string really has an effect. So what I always tell people is like, actually start with your fingers and kind of like play something you can bounce. And start to feel like what is happening to the transient of your note.
Yep.
And sort of play based on what the fuzz is giving you back. Because you can't just play it like an overdrive,
Yeah.
It'll come apart. You can't touch it the same way. So like here, if I can snag the cable back, when I'm plugging into something that I've never played before, a new circuit, new fuzz or whatever. I'm starting like I want to get an idea of how the front end of the note is being shaped by the pedal. Whether it wants to be like played closer to the neck. Or if it wants to be more of a bridge pickup thing.
Yeah.
But it really, like, your touch just has to change, and whatever you land on, that's something that I find like a lot of people who say they don't like fuzz pedals, it's because when they plug them in, they're just trying to get them to sound like a high gain overdrive or something. And it's just not going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what I've kind of always said on our live streams when we talk about fuzzes. I say that I don't know how to play them. That's the problem. Is that I'm so kind of I would say stuck in how I play because I've been doing the same thing for 25 years.
Yeah.
Right. So I often say that like we all have this sound in our head, and I chase down that sound. So like I'll plug this in, right, and I'll be like, okay, so how do I get the sound of what I just had? Like, how do I get that same sound, but just a little bit fuzzier? That's all. Like, it doesn't work.
And maybe bringing the bias back.
Yeah, it's definitely closer, right?
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, if you were doing like, I'm bad at theory, so like, whatever we were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of, do you call it diatonics, or what do you call it when it's just like two?
I mean, you could call it a dyad, but just like fifths or whatever. Just, yeah.
Like that compared to, I'm always used to like, like full. Yeah, and I do see like what you're saying there, and no one's ever told me that, so that's awesome. Like that, like don't try to do that.
Well, I mean, you can. That sounds good. I think it's when you start to add thirds and sevens and like more notes
like,
to a chord. Like, play that chord again.
Yeah.
There's no definition. Play your power chord.
Yeah.
You get a lot more of that kind of like wall of sound versus when you're trying to play something with major thirds or minor thirds or sevens or major sevens even.
Yeah, I do like how it cleans up. Like,
like dial it way back too.
Yeah.
When I came by to your Gear and Beer last week, we talked about exactly this. This is kind of what I like fuzzes for, is you can get them absolutely punishing and then have a clean tone at the same time,
Yep. Yeah, I think that's part of my problem. Is like my musical vocabulary is way limited to what I've been doing for however long. So it's I slowly pick up things like you know, we had an A&R guy, his name was Jason, that he's a country player, right? It's a dude based out of Nashville. And he would do like little runs like that
Yeah.
that I would never have thought about that because I would never use my fingers. I always would have just been using a pick.
Yeah.
And then the thing that I've stolen that everybody makes fun of me about now is that I do the right?
Yeah.
So I slowly pick up things. So now I'm gonna not while we're trying to do a podcast, start messing around with those shapes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the name of the game is just experiment, and a lot of times, you know, especially when you're trying something that's different, you have to think outside of your norms. Like you said, you often pick up a guitar and play the same thing you've been playing for a long time.
Yep.
And a lot of people are guilty of that. And that's I've had this conversation with a number of people where they go, "Oh, I just don't get along with fuzzes." Like what? But when you play one, it sounds good. What's the deal? It's like I think the key for me is really trying to pay attention to what the pedal is giving me instead of trying to get the pedal to do what I want it to do. Like trying to respond to what it's going to do. There are pedals that I have on my board, like this one. I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but this Octavian clone, I love, but it literally does one thing, and I might step on it once a night.
Yeah,
but I know it's not going to do X, Y, Z. It's just going to do one thing, and I just that's what I use it for.
I mean, I have that on my board just because my board is like lots of space on it, and I don't really use it any more than here and when I play at church every now and then. So like I got the Beatronic Swarm just to annoy Sam. Like literally there's no way I will ever use that anywhere useful at all. But I could bug the shit out of Sam on the live stream with that and a bunch of like weird noises.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tons of fun. I do like pedals that do like that are kind of like one trick pony things like that. If the trick is cool. It's the same with amps actually. I love a lot of amps that they really only have one really cool sound.
Yeah.
But that sound is just it's the coolest from that thing. And so if you're fortunate enough to be able to, afford to have a bunch of different gear that allows you to have a bunch of one-trick ponies, then that's great. I mean, I have the same thing with guitars where, I'm lucky that I've gotten a lot over the years because I don't sell much of anything. I've started to sell some stuff. So if you're looking for a PRS SC245, just check Revv. So no, I used to be big on like changing pickups in guitars, and like I would take my Strat and make it like took my US Strat and made it like weird like
HSH or whatever.
Well, I did like 2 humbuckers and like I tried to make it sound as much like a Les Paul as possible.
Yeah.
And then after a while I bought, a Paul Reed Smith and I bought a Les Paul and just slowly acquired guitars. And then I'd go to play the Strat and I'm like, well, this Strat doesn't sound like a Strat. Yeah. And I want a thing that sounds like a Strat now. So what I started doing was I took everything that I had modded and I moved almost all of my guitars back to stock.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, now if I want that sound, I grab that guitar because it does that thing. And the pedals are the same way that it's like, well, if I want that specific thing, like if I want a Klon style drive, I will grab either a Klon or any of the clones that I have. And like, that's the sound that I want. And if I want a Tube Screamer, I grab a Tube Screamer or any iteration of it.
I think now in the time when there's so many modelers and things that are pretty great sounding, the question often comes up like, why not just do that? But I think in even the best case, the modelers are only ever a greatest hits. And I think like, I have and use the HX Stomp quite a bit. I had an 11 rack back in the day.
Yeah.
I've never owned a Kemper, but I've used many of them, and they're all usable, But at the end of the day, for me, nothing sounds, but most importantly, feels right. Because a lot of things sound great, and like somebody go, check this out, this sounds fantastic. There is an exception to that I think I'll show on a future episode. A pedal that Universal Audio have made, I'm just annoyingly impressed with. We've talked about it already, but yeah, it's like the way that I play has less to do with how something sounds and more to do with how something feels. And there's
Yeah.
lots of things I plugged into, and you go, oh wow, that sounds great. And then I play it and I go, yeah, it does sound great, but it feels weird.
Yeah.
And it's not like at the end of the day, what people are hearing, if it's good, it's good, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I'm going to play better if it feels good.
Yeah, that's the thing that I tell everybody. Like like for anybody who's watching this who don't know, like I'm one of the like partners at Revv Amps, and that's my like day job is at Revv. And people think that, because we're a tube amp company, and while we use like digital technology, like we use the Two Notes torpedo embedded for modeling cabinets and microphones and stuff like that. A lot of the time they think the tube amp companies are against modeling, and we're not. Like I've got the XFX3, I've got the Helix, like a couple of guys here have quad Cortexes. I think all of it's great. I have a hard time with it because of exactly what you just said, is that modelers react so much faster to me than a tube amp does. So I feel like when I sit down to play it, I always play the same things, right?
Yeah.
So then I sit down to play it and it all feels off to me.
Yeah.
And I can absolutely adjust my attack or anything else to get it to sound the way that I want it to. The same as I will search out that sound that's in my head out of every overdrive pedal that exists on the planet. And then what makes me determine whether or not I want to own it, well, that's a lie. I want to own it no matter what. But what makes me determine whether or not I'm going to use it a lot is how happy am I, like, and how easy was it for me to get to that sound that's in my head. And it's literally what I do with everything. I chase that specific sound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now how does it feel? What's the compression like? What's the saturation like? Does it sag really nicely? Does it feel like, to me, I want everything to feel like super, like buttery without being muddy, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that it's like, I want nothing stiff, which is why, like, when you and I did the Dumble video thing with Two Notes in like 2017, like long time ago, that was the thing that was the most shocking to me about playing that Dumble, was that it was so unbelievably stiff when we first started playing it that I was like, this is impossible for me to play and feel good about how I'm playing. So, I mean, any piece of gear, that's what I immediately look for, is like, how easy is it to play? It's the same, like we talked on the live stream a couple weeks ago about like guitar necks, and you were like, I honestly don't really care, right? And to me, that's the biggest thing for me, is I'll sit down and be like, how does it feel? Because if it feels right, then that's one less thing that I'm going to think about when I'm playing.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, wait, am I,
for sure.
So, yeah, how a piece of gear feels it's a weird thing to say, because, watching YouTube video or anything like that, you can never determine that, which is the other reason that I go to guitar stores all the time, is because I'm like, hey, I can go to the guitar store and I can try all of this stuff and see how it feels, But yeah, I mean, that's one of my biggest kind of things. And that's with fuzz pedals, the fact that it doesn't have that clarity and individual note separation, because that's really what Revv does. Like, Dan is a master at like high gain where you can hear every string.
Single note.
Yeah. So then I sit down and play a fuzz pedal, and after having, worked with Dan and lived in that style of, gain structure for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
Like, you sit down with something else that doesn't do that at all. And that, well, like you just said,
it's like watching a VHS after you've been watching, high definition streaming.
Yes.
After throwing a Blu-ray in your Blu-ray player, man, there's nothing like it.
But I do love hearing guys like you and Ariel play fuzz pedals, because it sounds unbelievable. Like it's the tones that you guys get are phenomenal out of them. But that's why I've always said, like, I have to figure out how to adjust my playing. So I really appreciate, like, what you said at the beginning about, like, don't think about it in terms of like trying to hear all of that, because you're gonna be
you're never gonna get that clarity.
Yeah. So
it is kind of all about the mush, and you just have to lean into it.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it on the previous episode we did when we were looking at the London fog delay, that like different pieces of gear do inspire me to try playing different things when something doesn't, like when I can't naturally pull the things that I gravitate towards out of something, then I do start searching for, like, well, what can I do with this? And, if you have enough time to sit with something, then typically I'll find that in any piece of gear. Like that's the other thing that I say, like, there's so many people who like to shit all over products on the internet and say like, well, this thing sucks or this sucks. I don't, honestly, there's so few products that I think suck in the market.
Yeah.
There's just stuff that I'm like, it's just not for me because I don't have the musical vocabulary to make that thing sound great or to have the right riff or the right, song structure to make something sound cool. And I'll hear other people play things and be like, that's the way that thing should sound.
Yeah.
So
A Vox AC30 is that to me. It's like,
yeah,
some of my favorite guitar players play AC30s and I hear it and I'm like, wow,
yeah,
what a sound. And I plug into it and it's just like, wah.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the only of the like the big classic amps. I mean, the Vox is the only thing I don't own, and for that exact reason.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Manny and I went to do, well, and Dorian was with us, but we went to do some Dyne IR captures for Stu G from the band Delirious down in Nashville. It was almost 2 years ago now that we went to do this, and he brought a like early 60s AC30. This amp sounded unbelievable, and when I got to play it, I'm like, it doesn't feel weird and stiff and super toppy. Like, it felt awesome, and I was like, well, this is the thing that you have to chase after. But then you got to find whatever it'll cost you $10,000 to find a 60s Vox, or I don't know. I don't even know how much they are because I don't even bother looking for them because they're, yeah.
I'm getting
That's
offers
out of
on
my
my Reverb store.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see.
Ooh, I got an offer right
Sold.
before we started. Oh, you sold something.
No, I'm just basically, I'm just taking the very first offer that comes in. 'Cause
Really?
I just have so much stuff. And I just like, I literally have like tubs and tubs and tubs of pedals that just need to be played and loved by somebody. So if somebody's like, if I listed something the other day for $500, somebody's like, give you 300. I was like, deal. They're like, really? Like,
This is
yep,
the worst
get it
thing
gone.
that you could have possibly said on something like this, because now
Except for now people know that
the lowball offers are coming.
Don't be a wanker about it.
Yeah.
But if you make me a even remotely reasonable offer, sold.
I can't wait for the next comment to be like, you said you would take any offer on Reverb. I offered you $150 for your $500 pedal, and you declined. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Nice. Yeah, I have a few fuzz pedals that I gotta like mess around with. Most of the ones I have are honestly stuff that you're affiliated with somehow. Like I do have an original. Well, I shouldn't say original. I have a proper fuzz face that I bought at the Dallas Guitar Show this year because I kind of decided about a few things. I've had some kind of like borderline shitty hardline opinions about some gear. Like the most well-known one is the Gibson SG. I always say the SG stands for shit guitar because I've always hated the SGs. Now, I love how they sound. It's just I don't like neck dive, and they have a ton of neck dive, and the body feels too thin to me.
Yeah.
So I purposely went out and bought an early 90s SG because I love early 90s Gibsons. And I was like, I'm going to go find the thing that I should hate, and I'm going to try to find a way to love it. And it turns out like the 91 custom I bought is awesome. And I did the same thing with the fuzz face because I was like, I'll call Joey one time and get him to show me what I should be doing with this. So yeah, so I'm going to have to spend some more time with that.
Is it an old fuzz face?
I don't know. We can look at it when we're done.
Turn all the knobs all the way up.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you start. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deal. It's like this big. It's red.
Yeah, they're humongous. They take up so much space on a pedal board.
Yeah.
Aaron from Dominion, he was making like really beautiful relict clones.
Yep.
And not clones, but he was doing that thing. And he built me a beautiful one with covered in like purple crocuses, just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
nice.
I had it on my board for a long time. It's so big.
Yeah.
It sounds wonderful. It's so good. But yeah, those are like, that's the same thing. You can't. Oh, and then the other thing with fuzz pedals is you can't really go into a clean amp.
Yeah.
It has to be either on like edge of breakup or you have to be going into another drive pedal. If you plug something like this, this might do it because it's sort of a transitional like it's not like a full on like a fuzz face. If you plug a fuzz face into a twin reverb, it will be the worst guitar sound you've ever heard.
Right.
It's got to go into something that will absorb some of. It's got to have some compression.
I actually tell everybody that with any pedal that they ever play, like don't ever play your amp completely clean. Like you should always have just a little bit. You can always dial it back and it'll clean up. But what you guys heard was we're playing through a D20 right now, and I pull the boost on it all the time. So there's just like a little bit of breakup. So cool, man. Well, thanks for showing me that Kingsley pedals. Cool, and I'll definitely mess around with some fuzz pedals.
Heck yeah!
Thanks, man.
Right on.
See you next time.